now. And then we will just ask you to remain muted during the presentation, unless of course I ask you to unmute and share, which we will do a couple of times throughout this class today. And that is simply just so we don't have a lot of background noise and distraction during the presentation. All right, so before we start talking about nutrition from a tin can, I just want to share with you all some options here at Bronson, some resources that are available at Bronson in order to access care or get assistance in certain areas. So the first resource that I want to share with you today is the bronsonhealth.com Find a Doctor feature. So if you are looking for a specialist or maybe a new primary care provider, you can go to the bronsonhealth.com/find a doctor in order to search by specialty or by zip code or by who is accepting new patients. If you don't have access to the internet or just not savvy in that way, you can also call our Bronson Care Advisors at 269-341-7788, and you can inform them what you're looking for, and they can let you know what is available, which providers are available in the area that you're looking. We use MyChart frequently here at Bronson, and if you ever need any help with using MyChart, have questions about certain features with MyChart, then we also have Bronson Health Answers, and you can contact them either through the phone number listed on your screen, the local number, or the 1-800 number, or you are more than welcome to email them at answers@bronsonhg.org. So Bronson Health Answers can help you with any MyChart issues you might be having, questions on how to use certain features. And then Bronson Health Answers is also another good option to help determine the cost of maybe a certain procedure or screening that you might have had ordered. If you're looking to see how much that's going to cost you, then Bronson Health Answers can assist you in that way as well. And then lastly, if you have any issues with billing from the Bronson perspective, then you can always contact our Bronson Patient Accounting at those numbers listed there too, to have all of your billing questions or concerns addressed. All right, so today I just want to review what our goals for our class are going to be. And first, we are either going to learn about the benefits of using canned foods, or maybe you're already familiar with those benefits and we'll just reinforce those ideas. We are going to review 6 essential types of canned foods to have in your pantry to make meal prep easy and to provide just a convenient, nutritious option. And then the last is that we're going to discuss multiple different meal ideas using these 6 essential canned good foods to have in our pantry. But before I get started, I want to hear from you guys. So the first question of today's class is, how do you feel about using canned goods? Do you like to use them? Do you think they're beneficial? Do you have some concerns? Either go ahead and unmute yourself and share with the class, or go ahead and type your answers in the chat. How do you feel about using canned goods? I'll give you a minute. And again, if you'd like to unmute, you're more than welcome to do that and share with us. I'll start as you guys are kind of gathering up your ideas. Okay, I'm starting to see some in the chat now. Somebody says they like to use canned goods, especially beans. Absolutely, it's a convenient option to get your beans in. Mixed opinions, that's understandable. Somebody's using low sodium choices when they're using canned goods. Absolutely okay for some things. Concerned about salt, most overcooked, too much salt, conserved with what they're preserved with. Understandable, absolutely. Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way, right? I mean, We know that salt is used as a preservative in some of our canned items, and that can really get pretty high content of sodium pretty quickly. But it is also a very good option when it comes to just convenience of meal prep. So I understand that mixed feeling. Makes it easy to prepare at meal times when we are very busy. Absolutely. It's pretty easy to open up a can of beans rather than having to soak dried beans overnight. So maybe when we didn't plan as far ahead of time, we can use those as a convenient option. Very good. Thank you guys for sharing. It's good to understand how we feel as a group about canned food so we can talk about these benefits and concerns we might have. All right. So now I'm going to show you guys a video. If you guys can just let me know in the chat that it is running smoothly, that it's not glitchy, or that you can hear the sound, I would appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and start that video now. And it kind of gives an understanding of how canned goods are made and processed. And it also touches on why canned foods last for a longer period of times. I think it's pretty neat, and I'm looking forward to your guys' reaction after the video. I'll go ahead and start playing that now. I thought that was a pretty neat video. Did you guys learn anything new from that? I thought it was very interesting as well. Did you guys learn anything new from that? If so, go ahead and unmute, share what you learned, or put it in the chat for me. I know I think about preservatives with canned foods is always like just a lot of sodium, which we know is obviously true as well. I often forget about, I hear somebody maybe unmuted themselves that want to say something. I often forget about those high temperatures, but it makes sense, right? When we've got pressure canners at home, Instant Pot.
I thought it was interesting, the spy can concept.
Yeah.
That was pretty novel.
Yeah, and 120 degrees for 3 minutes to make sure that all the bacteria is gone. Never knew they were steamed, how they can preserve without the salt. Those high temperatures. Yeah, they said they didn't add any other preservatives. I can't imagine that they would exclude salt from that statement. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, I thought that's pretty neat.
I thought it was interesting that they cook the beans inside the can and can do it in 3 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I know you think about, I guess, maybe like prepping all the beans in a separate and then putting in the can, but that makes sense that they would also need to sterilize the can too, and they just do it all in one process for maybe the efficiency purposes. And then 1.5 million cans of beans a day. I thought that was quite impressive as well. They had quite a system going on. I thought it was fun. So where did canned goods really even start? So at the turn of the 18th century, we still did not have a great way to preserve foods for long periods of time. And come 1795, the French government was really looking for a revolutionary idea on how to preserve food so they could ship them over to soldiers that were going to be safe to eat and nutritious. And so the French government put together a challenge that was worth 12,000 francs, which would be about $13 in today's US dollars. And that challenge was looking for that new novel way of food preservation for their soldiers. A chef who was quite young, named Nicholas Appert, took on that challenge, and he started studying food sciences and food preservation, and he went to work. And his first idea was that he was going to be sealing foods using champagne bottles, actually. And he started preserving foods like fruits and vegetables in these champagne bottles. And he was using a combination of cheese and lime together to act as the preservative. Eventually, he moved away from champagne bottles to just wide glass or wide mouth glass containers. And he started doing, some fish along with it. Eventually, he moved forward into the tin can area in 1804. And he started doing fruits, vegetables, fish, and now he was also starting to work with some meat in tin cans. And he would preserve them in his way. He would seal the can soldered shut, and then he would just set them out and wait and see which ones swelled and which ones didn't. And the ones that didn't swell up because of bacteria growth, those were shipped down for long-term storage and use with the soldiers. So that is how it initially started in 1804, and eventually come 1806, he was awarded the prize from the French government. So when these tin cans that he was using, they were tin-lined steel or even cast iron that were soldered shut, very challenging to open. And so at that time, the soldiers had to either chisel open the can or stab through the can with their bayonets. It wasn't until 30 years after those tin cans were started to use before a can opener was invented. Can you imagine having to use a bayonet or chisel open your can for 30 years before a can opener was invented to use? I thought that was pretty interesting. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. You'll see a poll pop up on your screen. What kind of can opener do you use? Do you use a manual option, an electric option, or do you tend to buy cans that have those easy open lids, or do you use something else? All right, looks like the majority of you are using manual. Just a few of you are using electric can openers, and that's where I fall too. I always fall in the manual. For some reason or another, I feel like the electric doesn't last as long. But why do you guys use manual over electric most often? I'll end the poll now. Why do you use manual over electric most often for your can opener?
Well, I'm the opposite. I use electric because of dexterity
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
My daughter got me one that doesn't cut the metal, it pries it off. And she got me a really good one that cost like $20 when she bought it. And I'm just sold on that one. It works great. And I've had it for over 5 years.
And is you consider it a manual still?
It is a manual.
And does it cut from the
lid? It pries the lid. It like breaks the seal around instead of cutting the metal.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I don't think I've heard that before. Somebody says they tried electric, never liked it. I kind of agree with that statement. Manual is just easier to store. Go ahead, Pat.
That's what I was going to say. It's easier to store, but Pampered Chef has one that's great. So the edges of the can, when you take the top off, are not sharp.
Yes, that's another good
You've
thought.
You've got a little pincher that pulls the lid up and off.
Oh, I'm going to have to look into those. Thank you, guys. This is why I love teaching in class. You never know what you're going to learn. Very good. All right. So what are the benefits of using some canned goods? We know now about the process of canning these items in mass quantities. We know a little bit of the history of where it started. What are the benefits to us nowadays when it comes to canned goods? Well, we know that there's a long shelf life, and that could be for a variety of reasons, as we've acknowledged today. So, you know, when we're talking about kind of pre-planning, planning for the long term, meal planning for extended weeks out, we know that there's going to be a longer shelf life than purchasing fresh items. Most often, if we don't make it to the grocery store very often, then we might need canned green beans more often than fresh green beans because they're just going to keep longer for us. We may have less food waste because of that. If we can't make it to the grocery store as often and we've got all this fresh produce, but we can't eat it up as quickly as we would like, then you know that might increase food waste, but having canned goods as another nutritious option can help us decrease that, or vice versa, right? If let's say we have all this fresh produce available, we've got these fresh green beans, We've got these fresh carrots, but they're getting kind of to the end of their life. Maybe we can can them ourselves if we're good and experienced and have the know-how to do that. Then that can help us decrease less food waste and also less food costs, less out of pocket expenses for us too. Oftentimes, the canned option can be less expensive than the fresh or frozen varieties at, maybe less than $1 per can, or if you're doing name brand, you can often catch like 10 for 10 sales. So it might just be more budget friendly for you. And then if you're not working with a whole lot of freezer space at home, instead of buying frozen or freezing the produce that you might have, these canned goods could just take up, a little bit of room in the pantry and save up some of the freezer space for other items. There are resources out there for recipe ideas on cansgetyoucooking.com. So I highly recommend that if you're looking for maybe some meal prep ideas to use up some canned food. Pat, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say a reason that I went to canned was to raise the blood pressure, but I don't know why they have to put salt in, or when I'm making something that requires all different kinds of beans and like calico beans or something. I'm not going to play with all those different beans. I can open a can.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, we all have different medical needs for eating the way that we do. And so maybe we've got low blood pressure and we need to increase it, or the vice versa. Absolutely. So there's many reasons why we might utilize canned goods. And really it comes down to most often for us as a convenience option. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So you probably have already seen this plate planner or My Plate from choosemyplate.gov, where we've got half of our plates fruits and vegetables, half of our plate grains and protein, and then a dairy source. Again, the convenient option of having canned goods available is it makes it a little bit easier to develop a well-rounded nutritious plate of food using all of these food groups. When we can simply just, open up a can maybe of some pineapple and have a serving of pineapple on our plate, or we can open up a can of green beans and warm those up and ensure that we also get a serving of green beans at that meal. All canned goods will fit into these groups, or there at least are options for all of these food groups to make a nutritious meal. So I'm sure we've all heard, shop the perimeter of the grocery store only, right? That's where the most nutritious food is. We've got our freezer sections, usually with our fresh meat or frozen meats. We've got our fresh produce on the perimeter of the aisles. We've got our yogurts and our dairies on the perimeter of the aisle. Yeah, that's a good strategy. However, we really could be missing out on some convenient, nutritious foods by only shopping the perimeter of the grocery store. There are nutritious options within the aisles as well, and let's take a look at them. So in the aisles of the grocery store, we can find nutritious food in canned form in all of these areas that I was referring to from the My Plate picture. So let's start with legumes. Examples of legumes are chickpeas or garbanzo beans, black beans, lentils, green peas, all very nutritious. We've got canned vegetables such as green beans, carrots, stewed or diced tomatoes, canned pumpkin or beets. There are fruit options such as peaches or pineapples or mandarin oranges. We can get protein from canned items like tuna, salmon, canned chicken breast. And we can also get some fats from canned food like olives. And then we can have quick meal options, maybe snack options, side dishes from canned soups like lentil soup, split pea soup, broth-based like vegetable or vegetable bean soups. These are all good canned nutritious foods within the center of the grocery store. So yeah, shopping the perimeter is a good strategy, but let's not forget that there are also some good nutritious items in the center aisles of those grocery stores as well. Let's break each of those canned items down a little bit further and talk about why they're beneficial and some snack and meal ideas on how to use those canned foods. Feel free to speak up, unmute, chat if you've got additional ideas that on how you use these canned foods or that you would like to share with the group. So the first option that I talked about was canned legumes. And legumes examples I mentioned were chickpeas, black beans, lentils, and legumes are a great source of plant-based protein. So maybe you are just looking to decrease how many animal proteins you are eating. Maybe you are trying to increase your fiber. Legumes can be a great choice in that area. They're often more economical as far as cost is concerned in comparison to meat sources, so that you might be choosing more legumes from a budget perspective. And then here is a list of how we can use those canned beans or green peas. First, we might make a chili. I think it was Pam that was talking about using a variety of different beans in like a bean soup or a vegetable and bean soup. You can use canned beans for hummus with a little olive oil or tahini, garlic, and that hummus can be used on top of toast or maybe for a dip for your vegetables. Legumes can be used as an extra protein source on a salad, either as a main dish salad or just a side salad as part of a meal. Maybe you're doing like a taco salad and you've got lettuce, and maybe you do half shredded chicken and half black beans, maybe with some corn or some salsa. That can be used as a main dish, those beans on the salad. Garbanzo beans or chickpeas, you can either roast them yourself, low and slow in the oven, or you can purchase them already roasted along with edamame as an excellent snack choice. Yeah, good job, Larry. He says he's doing good. He uses every one of the ideas. I love that. Beans are a great source of protein and fiber, and we really could use to eat a little bit more of some beans, absolutely. We don't think about beans very often as far as a breakfast option, but we could do a black bean, egg, tomato, pepper, onion, breakfast burrito for a fiber source in the morning. And then, as I mentioned, maybe you're doing a taco or maybe a chili, you could do half the amount of meat and put in and substitute the other half with beans. So those are some ideas for legumes. I didn't see any extra ideas in the chat, but if you want to chat or unmute, please feel free to share how maybe you use canned beans in a way that hasn't already been discussed. I'll give you guys a minute.
I take just canned pinto beans and a tortilla and some cheese and make a quick, easy burrito for a snack.
Yeah, absolutely.
And since they're,
Protein.
I can get the low sodium kind, it's healthier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Anybody else want to share? All right. So we talked about lots of ideas, but what's your favorite way to use canned beans? What is your go-to way to use canned beans? We heard Pamela talk about how she likes to use canned beans, but go ahead and either unmute or type in the chat for me. What's your favorite way to use a canned bean? Pamela says chili and soup. Chili, absolutely. Chili. Yep.
My favorite dish is African beef stew.
Joe, can you say that again? African beef?
Beef stew,
African beef stew, okay. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, it's, I use a pressure cooker version in that, but it's beef in that, cubed beef, and I haven't made it in so long. It does have tomatoes in it, and it has usually black beans or whatever actually beans. It doesn't matter what type of beans you use. Whatever you got in that, you can dump into it in that. And I haven't done it in so long in that I don't really remember all the ingredients.
Sounds like you're going to put that on your to-do list now.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Anybody else want to share their favorite way to use canned bean? I see someone else unmuted. If you want to share, go ahead. Otherwise, we'll move forward. All right. Then next, we'll talk about some canned vegetables. Again, I already alluded to this, right? When we're looking at that plate method and, maybe our medical nutrition goals is to have half of our plate a vegetable, or maybe we're at least trying to get a quarter of our plate vegetable. These canned vegetables are just an easy option to quickly warm up and help us meet our goal of the recommended amount of vegetables we should be having in a day. So what are some meal and snack ideas we can have to include canned vegetables? Well, we could simply warm up a can of green beans and add that as a side dish to whatever meal we might be cooking, chicken and potatoes, adding green beans to a beef stew. We might add some green peas or some diced tomatoes from a can into a pasta meal in order to boost the nutritious punch of that meal. Maybe we're adding some canned beets, some canned corn, some canned black beans or green peas to a salad. Again, not only are we getting a source of or a serving of vegetable here in this moment by adding corn or black beans or green peas, but we're also getting a little extra protein, a little extra fiber to make that all around more a nutritious meal. You're going to see the next poll question pop up on your screen now. And the poll question is, what is the recommended daily servings of vegetables? So you are going to see that pop up in just a moment. Give me a second. There you go. What is the recommended daily servings of vegetables? Choose which one you think is correct. Is it 3, 9, 5, or 7? It's a tricky one. So a lot of you guys are answering 3 and 5 so far. We're very split, almost 50-50 with those that have answered. And I say it's tricky because I think a lot of us are answering 5 because 5 recommended servings of fruits and vegetables. We're looking at servings of fruits and vegetables, 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. If we're looking at vegetables alone as a single food group, then the recommendation is 3 servings of vegetables per day. And what constitutes as a serving? Well, if we're doing 1 cup, 1 measuring cup of raw or cooked vegetables, that is 1 serving. Or if we are choosing some dark leafy greens like romaine, spinach, kale, then 2 cups is 1 serving of vegetables. Of course, you can eat more. That is the recommended daily servings of vegetables. All right, and then we'll move on to canned fruits as an option. Again, they tend to last longer than fresh, maybe more economical than fresh, especially if maybe that fruit is not in season at that time. And how can we use canned fruit in a nutritious meal? Well, we might pair some pineapple or some peaches with cottage cheese as a snack or a side dish to a meal. We might add some mandarin oranges on top of a salad with some chicken and some slivered almonds like you see in the picture. It might be the addition of pineapple to a chicken stir fry, or maybe we add some pineapple on a shrimp kebab. Those are just some ideas on how to include canned fruit into our meals and snacks. But I want to hear from you because I think that this one can be a little bit more challenging in my opinion. I want to hear from you guys. Share a nutritious way to enjoy canned fruit. What are you guys doing to enjoy canned fruit in a nutritious way? Either unmute or type your answer in the chat for me. A smoothie, very good. Yes, we can get lots of food groups into a smoothie, can't we? They're a low-fat dairy or some Greek yogurt. We could put our canned fruit in there. We can even throw some vegetables in, some peanut butter for healthy fats. Add to a meal or put it in a smoothie with yogurt and nuts. I didn't even think about adding that to the list, right? Yogurt with some fruit and maybe some granola or nuts, very good. Smoothie or in Jello, yeah. Oh, put it in cereal, yeah, good. Good ideas, you guys. Thanks for sharing. All right. Now let's look at canned protein. I think probably most of us think of canned protein as tuna. It may be easier to include fish into our diet, or really any of these canned proteins. It might be easier to do a canned version. Again, if we maybe have some limitations to cooking, or if maybe we're a little intimidated in cooking fish, it can be a process to learn. So using canned tuna or canned salmon can be a really good heart healthy way to get those omega-3 fatty acids that are good for our heart and the unsaturated fats. And so some ideas here with canned protein, and it's not just tuna or salmon as though I've mentioned, but you could also get canned chicken breast as well as an easy option to get some extra protein to some meals and snacks. So maybe it's a tuna salad on some whole grain cracker. Maybe it's tuna as a protein on a salad, right? We talked about lots of salad options so far. You could use tuna or canned chicken. You could do half and half with beans too. You can make up some salmon cakes, or maybe even a salmon burger to get your fish in, or even a salmon and egg scramble. Those are some ideas there on how to get some canned protein. So I want to know from you guys. We know that we should eat fish if we like it, enjoy it. It's very heart healthy. But why? You're going to see another poll question pop up. Why is fish considered heart healthy? And maybe I already shared this with you guys. We'll see if you were listening. Go ahead and answer that question. Why is fish considered heart healthy? An important source of omega-3 fatty acids. Is it low in saturated fat? Is it low in cholesterol? And it is a multiple choice answer, so you can choose more than one. So most of you guys have answered so far. Most of you said it's an important source of omega-3 fatty acids. Absolutely. Fish also is low in saturated fat and low in cholesterol as well. So actually all three of those answers are correct. Unless, of course, maybe it's been fried and it could be a little bit higher in saturated fat, like a fish and chips kind of a meal, fried cod. But otherwise, very good source of omega-3 fatty acids and low in saturated fat and cholesterol overall. Very good. All right, and then canned fats. I don't think there's a lot of options when it comes to canned fats. Olives is the primary one I think of. Olives are a source of heart healthy unsaturated fats. We just have to be mindful because they are higher in sodium. So if you are on some sodium limitations, that will be something to be mindful of. But olives can be included in an overall healthy meal pattern as well. Maybe we're adding olives to a Greek salad. Maybe we're just having a few olives as a snack. Olives, can be added to a dish that has chicken or fish. It can be a natural source of sodium in that meal without having to add additional sodium to the dish, and give you your heart healthy fats there too from that olive. The next question is, do you like olives? I know not everybody loves them, but do you like olives? Go ahead and answer that in the poll question. And then if you're saying, yeah, I love olives, I want to hear from you guys in your, I see a big old capital yes. I want to hear from you guys in the chat or unmute. You know, how do you like to enjoy olives? I would love to get some additional ideas because I too love olives. So most of you love olives. A couple of you say yes, but only a certain only certain olives, and we've got 3 of you that are like, ew, I do not like them. So go ahead and share in the chat or unmute for me. I want to hear, how do you guys like to eat olives? Somebody says just eating a little bowl of green olives. We'd load them as pizza toppings. Yes. Add them to tacos and nachos. Olive stuffed with garlic. Yes. Anyway, Joe says. Yep. Does anybody like Kalamata olives? The purple ones?
Yes, to die for.
To die for. I agree with you, Joe. Those are delish. Just plain. Not really. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if you're used to just a green olive or a black olive, the Kalamata olive takes a little time to get used to. Love some on the salad for lunch today. Yeah. A bit bitter for you. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. All right. Thank you guys for sharing all of your ideas on how to eat some olives. Kalamata, yes, Kalamata and feta cheese, a classic combination. Thank you. All right. And then I think this is the last pantry item that I shared that can be quick and nutritious, and that is canned soup. So just a quick meal option. If we don't have a lot of time to prepare something, we can make it part of a balanced meal, right? If we're getting a soup that, let's say, has beans and vegetables, maybe a meat source in there too, pairing it well with a salad so we can get all of our food groups, or most of our food groups at least, in that meal. Recommendation would be looking for most of your broth-based soups, just because they will have less saturated fat than your creamy options, lower calorie than your creamy options. But again, it just depends upon what your goals from your nutrition is. Choosing canned soup that has lots of vegetables in them, maybe some beans in there, lentil-based soup, or vegetable and bean soup, or maybe a barley sort of soup. And you guys have shared that when you're looking at canned soups, then you're often looking for low sodium options when you are able to do so. And that is an important part. So I wanted to just practice some label reading. And so here we have a canned soup. It's from Progresso. It's got the label at the top that says reduced sodium. So that means that it is going to have less sodium than its original counterpart. If we look at that nutrition facts label, we can see, sometimes a bit deceiving in a sense, we think of a can of soup as maybe being 1 serving, but we see when we look at this label, there's actually 2 servings in this can. So that means that only half the can is the serving size. So serving size is 1 cup, half the can, and we can see that that 1 cup has 480 milligrams of sodium. Now, when we're looking at sodium recommendations, you may have received a recommendation anywhere from 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams for most people. But again, that's very individualized. And so let's just say, if you're doing a 2,000 milligram sodium goal, if you're doing 500-600 milligrams of sodium per meal, you want to stay under. You do 1 cup of this. That's 480 milligrams. Yes, that's substantial. But if we have this meal, which also has some protein in it, it has a little bit of fiber in it. It doesn't have a lot of fat because it's broth-based and it's chicken. And then we pair this 1 cup of soup with a large side salad with, our romaine lettuce and maybe some green peas or some black beans. That's overall going to be a very low sodium choice to match with something that maybe is a little bit higher in sodium, so we can still stay under our recommendations and meet our goals. However, if we ate the whole can or 2 servings, we can see that that's 1,020 milligrams of sodium, and that might not meet our goals. All right, so we also talked about canned fruit as being an option. And I think one of the concerns with canned fruit is that there is a lot more extra sugars in there that we don't necessarily need also known as added sugars when we are looking at that label. So here is an example of a canned pineapple chunk. It is canned in 100% pineapple juice, not in light syrup, not in heavy syrup. It is in its own 100% pineapple juice. We see that there's 4.5 servings in this one can, with a serving size of being half a cup. We can see down under that total carbohydrate bold area that we see fiber, total sugars, and then underneath the sugars, we see how many are added sugars. If this were a light syrup or a heavy syrup option, we would see a lot of added sugars. But because it's in its own juice, we don't see any added sugars. So yes, there is going to be sugar still because pineapple is a sugar source, but none of them are from extra added sugars added by the manufacturer of these pineapple chunks. So if we still are looking at that and saying, boy, 15 grams of sugar, that's a lot. Understandable, right? That has the juice in there too. We don't have to drink the juice. We can drain that juice and just eat the pineapple alone. We can also rinse that pineapple off with some water too to try to decrease some of that extra sugar. So there are some strategies here, even if we are looking to use canned fruit and still be nutritious, maybe lower our sugar intake. All right, so questions? Go ahead and ask some questions if you have a question, or if not, then go ahead and let me know. What is one thing that you learned today that you are going to use in the next week? Either answer it in the chat for me, or go and unmute and share it with the group. What is one thing that you learned today that you plan on using in the next week? I know for me, I would love some Kalamata olives and feta cheese now after our conversation. Might add that to my snack list this week. What is one thing you learned today that you'll use in the next week? Go ahead and unmute or put it in the chat for me. That website to get more ideas. Yes, and so Larry, that was cansgetyoucooking.com, if I remember correctly. Cansgetyoucooking.com. Look at the recipes. Anybody else want to share? Yes. Yep. Cans Get You Cooking. Increase daily servings of vegetable. It's a worthy cause. Absolutely. You know, I feel like, again, I think we think about vegetables probably more often at like lunch and dinner. But let's not forget that we can get a serving of vegetables in at breakfast time. Maybe we're doing an egg scramble, adding peppers and onions and tomatoes and spinach, or maybe we're doing some sort of a breakfast burrito. And Kathleen says, you know, adding more legumes to meals, that can be a great option to put in at breakfast too, or again, just easily throw on top of a side salad. Try to use canned fruit, more convenience. Absolutely, yes. See, so canned fruit is better than no fruit, right? So if we're not purchasing a lot of fruit, maybe it's a little bit more expensive, you don't use it up as often, then that canned fruit is still, it's shelf stable, it's sitting there in your pantry, it's ready to use. Be better to have the canned fruit than no fruit. I'm less concerned about the canned food after watching that video. I will buy canned legumes. Love that, absolutely. Very good. And again, still important, right, to always do your label reading to ensure that you're choosing the option that has the least amount of sodium if that is a goal for you. Thank you guys for sharing. All right, very good. So today we learned, or maybe I helped reinforce, the benefits of using canned foods in an overall healthy meal pattern. We looked at those 6 essential types of canned goods to have on hand in your pantry to make meal prep a little bit easier and still have nutritious meals and snacks. And hopefully you guys are walking away having a better idea on some different meal and snack ideas using that canned food from a humble tin can. That was our goal, and I think that we accomplished that. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for attending. I know we're finishing up just a couple of minutes early. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys being here. There will be another class on Thursday if you haven't already registered for that. And Thursday's class is going to be dining out with confidence, because remember, it's still February, American Heart Month. So we're going to talk about how to eat out in a healthy way as well. So register for that if you would like to. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Love fish. How much can we eat weekly? So recommendation for fish is 2 to 3 servings of a fatty fish like tuna or salmon per week. Thank you for asking that question. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one.